I'm going to give you a summary of Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 6 minutes because this book changed my life. It gave me more financial freedom in my 20s than anything else. And it's one of those books that you have to read in order for it to make sense. I'm just going to do my best to summarize it here. But if you really want to understand it, you have to go buy the book. Now, before we get into the book, I have something for you guys. I've been trying to do this for a while, but I finally got it set up where every single Sunday at 7 a.m. Arizona time, I'm going to be going live and answering your questions. So if you have any investing, real estate, or business-related questions, any questions you have about what I do here on YouTube, come on down and ask me live. So put your questions in now, and then maybe next week they'll be answered. Now let's get into the summary. The first thing he talks about is the difference between a rich person and a wealthy person. So a rich person is someone who has a lot of money, but a wealthy person has a lot of assets. Now, the author, Robert Kiyosaki, had both rich and wealthy people in his life, hence the title. He had a rich dad and a poor dad. His biological father was his poor dad, and his best friend's dad was his rich dad. The poor dad had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and was very educated, but he never really made a lot of money. And he told Robert when he was a kid that if you get an education, if you get a job, you work hard, you'll be financially secure in the future. This was a lie, at least for Robert. Because although he did get good grades, get a college degree, and get a good job, he was still broke. So he asked his rich dad, who only had a high school education, how could he be so financially free? He was driving around in a Ferrari and didn't have to work at all. Well, his rich dad told him that most people are taught to work for money instead of having their money work for them. And that was the big difference. He said that if you work for money, you will never be rich. But if your money works for you, then you can become rich. You see, most people think that being rich means having a lot of money, but that's not actually true. Being rich is having a lot of assets that produce enough income to pay your bills. So the way he explains it is, you have your time, your energy, and your money. If you trade your time for money, then you have to work. If you trade your energy for money, then you have to work harder than people who don't know this secret. And if you trade your money for more money, which is what we call investing, then you can get rich. See, most people don't invest their money, they spend it. When they get a raise at work, they spend it. When they get a tax refund, they spend it. When they get a bonus, they spend it. Instead of using that extra money to build assets, they spend it on liabilities, things like vacations, new cars, bigger houses, thinking that by spending money, they're going to be happier. But they're wrong. The rich don't spend money. They keep it and invest it to make more money. The poor and middle class want to be like the rich, but they don't do the same things the rich do. They want the lifestyle of the rich, but they don't want to do what it takes to get there, which is why they're still poor and middle class. Here's the problem. Most people don't understand the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. People confuse assets with things that make them look rich, like a big house or a fast car, when in reality, these are liabilities. Now, rich people don't buy things that make them look rich, because they know that will keep them poor. Instead, they buy assets that make them rich. Assets like stocks, bonds, rental properties, businesses, precious metals, and other investments that bring in cash flow and appreciate over time. Robert says that our whole education system is wrong. We're taught to get a job, work hard, get promoted, and then retire someday in the future. But the sad part is that most people that follow this path end up working for their entire lives and never actually retire. He says that to really become financially free, we need to learn how to manage our money. We need to understand how taxes, banks, and the government affect our money. And we need to learn how to use these things to our advantage. So let me explain this. Number 1, taxes. We all have to pay taxes, but the rich and the poor pay the same percentage in taxes. That percentage is called the marginal tax rate. For example, if you're making $100,000 a year and the marginal tax rate is 30%, that means that 30% of every extra dollar you make will go to taxes. So if you were to make $110,000, you'd pay an extra $10,000 in taxes. But if you were to make $90,000, you'd pay $10,000 less in taxes. So it doesn't matter if you make $1 million a year or $100,000 a year, the tax rate is the same. But the rich take advantage of something called the tax code. The tax code allows certain expenses to be written off against your income, which reduces your taxable income. It's literally the law. Anyone can take advantage of it. You just need to know how. Number 2, the bank. Most people have no idea how banks work. Banks take your money and lend it out to someone else, who pays interest on it. The bank makes money off the difference between what they charge that person and what they pay you. And number 3, the government. The government loves to print money. They do this, it causes inflation. Inflation makes it so that your money buys less stuff. The government does this to help the economy grow, but it also makes it easier for them to take your money. So to sum everything up, the rich invest their money and play the long game. They think decades ahead and plan accordingly. The poor and middle class spend their money and play the short game. They think years ahead and just try to make ends meet. So if you want to change your financial situation, you have to change your mindset. You have to start thinking like the rich. So I'm leaving some videos right here of mine that talk about exactly how to invest and how to make money in the stock market and real estate. Go check those out after this. Now I know that was a lot to take in, so go back and read the book. It's literally like 100 pages. I guarantee you'll learn something. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button because I put out videos like this every single week. If you want more, stay tuned. If you want to learn about the stock market and how I made over $1 million in the stock market in the last 10 years, go watch this video right here.